G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to DCS World with Mags, and welcome to a bit of a preview video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming P-47D, or at least what it's up to at this point. So I want to explain a couple of things before we go too deep into this. This is an early access pre-release look at P-47D. It is not complete yet. In fact, what you're seeing right now isn't even on a standard release version of DCS. This is a special build that includes all of the World War II aircraft along with the P-47 and the brand new channel map, which we are flying over at the moment. I know we're flying in a storm, you're not going to get a particularly good look at it. I'm going to do another video on it later. I just couldn't miss the opportunity of flying the P-47 Thunderbolt in a thunderstorm. It just kind of seemed appropriate. Alright, so let's get this out of the way. This is not a review of the aircraft, it's not a test of the aircraft, it's not a commentary on how the aircraft is going to be when it's released, and I am not in any way, shape or form criticizing its current status. This is a specialized DCS build that is not publicly available, containing an aircraft that is still in development. Once it's in public hands and in an actual live client, then we'll start poking it. But until then, there is absolutely no point. It's an in-development aircraft, and we're taking a little bit of a look at what's going on behind the scenes, where it's currently at, how it's currently looking. There's a lot on this plane that was listed to me straight up is not finished. The damage visualization, you'll see some of this in here, I'll actually show you. This is post-commentary, by the way, so I will line up with the scenes when I was looking around showing stuff off. I actually flew this flight deliberately to take a bit of damage so I could demonstrate some of the things to you. But the damage visualization on the externals of the aircraft is, at the very least, partially done, but still in development. Internally, you're going to see a lot of the damage isn't actually shown from inside of the cockpit yet. There's some issues with the flight model that's still being worked out. The wings are basically indestructible. The engine is basically indestructible from everything. Incoming fire seems to do virtually nothing to it, as you'll see. You can also push the engine to oblivion. It will never overheat and it will never die of stress. Which is actually kind of fun if you don't mind the realism side of things. Being able to flog the arse out of a P-47 and never have to worry about it dying. Which is actually not a huge amount different from the real aircraft, but moving on. There's also a few issues with the stall behavior in the flight model as well, which, as I said, the flight model is still being worked on. So at the moment, the flight model of the aircraft actually feels a little bit too light. There's not a lot of weight behind the P-47, or not as much as I would expect anyway, considering the size and weight of the actual aircraft. You can throw it around more like a Spitfire than I would expect it to, so I expect there's probably a little bit of playing going in there. So the first area is to talk about for what is there, and as I look around the screen you will notice the cockpit details. I'm sure you already have. Very clean, very crisp, very clear. I have absolutely no doubt they'll be absolutely fantastic in VR. Very nice overall. The systems inside of the cockpit, at least the ones I've had a chance to test so far, all seem to function. That being said, I don't have a flight or systems manual for the P-47 at the moment, so I can't really check what the information on the gauges is telling me versus what it should be telling me, so I can't cross-reference anything at this time. My experiences inside of IL-2, which I think is reasonably close, seem to have this pretty close as well, but I really need some documentation to actually be able to test here, and until I've got that I can't go any further. Again, while this isn't a review. Now, the 50 cals didn't do anywhere near as much damage as I was expecting to the Ju-88 there. However, that may have more to do with the Ju-88's damage model than the 50 cals themselves. Now, look closely at the cockpit here and the engine cowling. You'll see that there's some clearly defined holes through the cockpit, some clear damage on top of the wing, and as the engine cowling comes around, you'll see the front of the engine cowling has been shredded right through. You can see daylight all the way through, top of the engine's been torn out. Obviously the engine itself didn't take any damage because, as I said before, the engine is practically invulnerable to everything. However, looking around the inside of the cockpit, you'll see that the gun sight no longer functions, but does not appear to be broken, and the inside of the canopy doesn't have any damage decals or any clear signs of any damage at all. Also the pilot, which, to be honest, I probably should have got my head shot off then, takes no damage. So that's an area that's obviously still being worked on at this point. they still need to do all of the shattered glass, the damage decals to the inside of the cockpit, and obviously the damage models for the things like the broken reflector sight and things along those lines if they've been smashed through. And a damage model of the pilot is just a matter of turning on. It's probably just turned off for testing at this point. So all that being said, I'm actually reasonably impressed with how that cowling was torn apart. That looked really good. That looked better than a lot of the damage modelling done, or at least the visual damage modelling done on a lot of DCS aircraft at this point. So I'm hoping this might be sort of an early look at perhaps a new damage system. I know they've been apparently working on one for a while. Maybe the P-47 is going to be the one that actually starts showing it off, and maybe we'll actually start getting a more detailed visual damage model to all of the older aircraft at some point in the future. So I decided to turn back onto that JU-88 and give it a second crack and just eyeball 50 cals rather than use the gun sight, because obviously the gun sight is now broken. You're going to see a bit of what I'm talking about with the flight model here as well. I'm going to pull in on the 6 of the 88. I'm obviously not too worried about the return fire, considering the engine is basically immune to all damage. Punch some shots into him, and then I'm going to go into a loop. And you're going to see how light it appears to be. It does remind me a lot more of a Spitfire doing a nice long high-speed loop than it does the P-47. I'm not pulling full back on the stick here at all either. This is just a nice smooth, probably no more 25-degree pullback, just letting it loop over, drop back down, line right up on the target, and just eyeball the rest of the 50 cals through as I make the pass through. And I'm actually going to stop talking here for a little bit and let you have a little bit of a listen to the sounds, because the sounds here are pretty good as well. So obviously I ran out of ammunition there towards the end and decided to break off, come over here and try for a little bit of a landing. But you get the idea. The sounds, in particular the external sounds, are really nice. It's really throaty. I can see a lot of really nice cinematics being made for this one. Internally the sound's good as well. You can pick up the different speeds on the supercharger based on throttle movement as you're going through the settings. I will say the cockpit does appear to be, well, it does seem to be quieter than I would have expected. However, this is exactly the same thing that I experienced inside of IL-2 as well. Their P-47, the cockpit is significantly quieter than I would have expected from an aircraft that has this much engine that is this angry. So maybe this was just a P-47 thing. It's just an interesting thing to note that both aircraft that I've seen modelled have exactly the same effect in regards to internal sounds. Otherwise, as I said before, all the systems on the aircraft work. So flaps work, gear works, trim works, everything else functions. You can fly the plane as normal. So I'm just going to do a long 180 here on external shot. I'm going to drop the flaps as we're going through and then drop the gear and line up for the approach. I did time this a little wrong. I thought the last B-17 had already landed, but there's actually a B-17 directly in front of me. So I tried to slow this landing up a lot more than I would normally have, and came in a little fast initially and then got a little bit too slow and started to dip. But nobody comes to this channel for the quality of my landings in the first place. I can confirm, without question, you can break the aircraft if you land it wrong. Thankfully, this time I didn't, although I did play the role of a basketball for a little bit of the runway. You can see the B-17 out in front of us there at the moment. Yeah, that could have been better. Honestly, with the amount of landings I've done in IL-2, I should have been better than that. But anyways, this has just been a brief look at the P-47, just having a bit of a peek around at it and seeing what's up. Now, as far as I'm aware, the limited client that I have access to will get updates as new updates are done to the P-47 itself. So I'm going to try and get some more material so I can do some more testing. I've only had access to this for really 24 hours at the time of this recording. And as the aircraft advances along, I'll pop a video up every now and again with any updates that have been done in regards to flight model, damage model, and so on. And maybe just to have a bit of a play around with it. Now, as I said, I'm going to have a video up on the channel map specifically in the next couple of days. That will be just to focus directly on the map rather than anything else. It is very similar to the Normandy map in many ways, but it does have some rather unique areas, some of which I flew over in this one. It is kind of begging for some slightly older warbirds. I'm thinking E-model 109s and Spitfire 1s, 2s and Hurricanes, but we'll have to see what the future holds. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this look at the P-47. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care out there.